Hi everyone, my name's Ruth Hutton, and in this video, Jason Schleifer and I are going to talk a little bit about Griptape Enterprise. So Griptape Enterprise is the tier that's built for studios that need to be able to deploy AI safely and predictably across an entire facility. The Enterprise tier brings you on-prem deployment, licensing for unlimited users, advanced permission controls, and premium support and onboarding. So what does this mean? Well, on-prem deployment means everything runs on your hardware inside your own network. So your IP, prompt input, training data, your media, and any other sensitive data will never have to leave the building. The only traffic that ever goes out is a quick license check with Foundry. So instead of each user needing to connect to the internet to log in, on-prem licensing with Griptape Enterprise means they just need to connect to the license manager, which then takes care of the authentication via the internet. With the advanced permission controls, you can stay in control of who gets what. So you can decide exactly which models, which node libraries and features each artist, project, or shop can access. So every workflow stays completely vetted and production ready. And Griptape Enterprise covers everyone, so you can assign licenses for unlimited users, whether they're people or robots. Everyone in the studio can pick it up whenever it's needed. And finally, Enterprise also includes premium support and onboarding, so you get a fully supported evaluation and direct access to the Griptape team to get you up and running really smoothly. And then you'll also get ongoing support once everything is implemented. So I'm going to hand over to Jason now to talk a little bit more about setting up permissions through the admin dashboard.
So we'll run through first, starting with the administrative dashboard, and then get into some of the artistic tools. So the whole point of the dashboard is to really give the studio control over what models and capabilities they give their artists access to. And it's kind of focused in three areas. First of all, you want to create a license key. And the way that you use license keys is you're going to basically create a key for either a user or for a robot or some combination of the two. You can determine whether it's headless or interactive, and then you can give it an end date. This will give you the key, and that key is how your users authenticate. They can just go ahead and copy that to the clipboard, and then they'll be able to use it whenever they're ready to go in. So you can create a whole bunch of different keys, again, for every use case that you may need. And then what you can do is start organizing those keys into groups, the same way you organize your users now. So you can say, these are all my artists, these are my compositors, my technical directors, these are clients, these are my agents. However you decide that you want to organize them, you can do that. And then you create permission templates that you assign to either license keys or the access groups. So for example, here I've got one that's just assigned for a group called the Red Shirts, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. And we have two different ways of providing permissions to the users that we call them postures. So there is a exploration posture or an allow all posture, which basically means by default, everything is allowed. And then you can say these particular things aren't. So like allow everything except don't allow models by ByteDance, for example. Or we have a deny all posture, which is like deny everything, but then allow artists to use these particular libraries. Both of these postures are really important, and you may change those postures over time as your team grows and as you learn more about which models, which activities you want to allow your artists to be able to have. Here's an example again for the Red Shirts here. This is a team that goes and explores all sorts of things, and so I wanted to give them an explore all or an allow all posture. So meaning they can go in and use any library, any model, any capability that we want, versus my studio employee posture, which is a deny all to start off with, but then they have access to certain libraries and certain capabilities. So for example, they have access to any of my own custom libraries for my studio. They have access to the Griptape Nodes library and Cloud and OpenEXR, but not any other random libraries that they might want to download from the internet. They can't run any arbitrary Python code. They can only use stable nodes, things like that. So it's basically two different postures that allow us to work forward, basically be able to do whatever it is we need for particular users over the course of production. So we have the studio level, and then we also have project scoped permissions where we can really drill in and make sure that particular projects work a certain way. For example, this project is we just want to see what's going to be possible. So we're just saying, go ahead and apply everything. Like you can use any model any process, any capability, it doesn't really matter. Versus this other project, which is lower budget, where I can say you can only use local models. So local large language models, local diffusion models, and things like that. In both projects, you could still create images, you could still create videos, but the model choice and the capability is dependent on that particular project. So to set this up, what you can do is basically say, I'm going to go ahead and create a template. You give it a name. In this case, we're going to call this one the long whistle. We'll say it is a project scoped template, and then go ahead and create it. Now I can choose the project. In this case, like I said, the long whistle, and I can assign this project to either a license key or to an access group or a combination of the two. Right now, I'm just giving it to that one Amaru window license. So we'll save that, and then Amaru would go in and activate with a particular license. So he goes to log in, he opens the Griptape nodes, puts in the license key, activates the license, and now he's able to go ahead and start working. If he switches over to his project, the long whistle, you'll notice that he has access to a couple of workflows that were loaded or that are available there. So he chooses Sadie and he's able to start working. And this is one where we're going in and trying to define what does this character look like. And he's using Seadream to do that. So let's say as a user or as the administrator, I'm like, you know what, we really can't use any ByteDance nodes. So I'm just going to go ahead and deny ByteDance as one of the providers that's available. So I go ahead and I save that template. And then the next time Amaru goes to log in and use that particular workflow, you'll notice that the Seadream node is no longer available. Now we didn't kill that workflow. We don't say, you know, you aren't allowed to basically use this node at all, or you aren't allowed to use that workflow. We won't error out, but we do tell him why he can't use that particular model. And then he's able to go in and make a different decision, like either contact the administrator and say, hey, I really need access to this model. Maybe we can provide it access, or he can choose a different model and say, all right, I'm going to go in and use Flux 2, for example. And again, the whole point of this is not to stop people from working. It's to guide them to be using the things that they are supposed to be able to use. The other thing is, because this is, you can apply these license keys per project or per user, it could be that we allow the model for interactive use, but not for headless or the other way around. So that's another reason why we don't want to just like break the workflow completely, because it could be that someone else is actually able to work that way, which is totally fine. But in this case, Amaru's decided to go with Flux 2, and now he's able to keep moving forward and keep iterating on the project. So with the permissions, the way that we've defined them is you have the ability to create a permission for or create license keys for either artists or robots or some combination thereof. You can organize those license keys into groups, and then you can have studio and project level permissions with different postures, whether it's an allow everything, deny specific things, or deny everything and allow other things. And in terms of what you can actually allow or deny, we have capabilities like the ability to use particular libraries or the ability to run arbitrary Python code. We have the ability to choose which libraries artists have access to choose particular models like a model family or a model provider or a specific model itself, and then life cycles for various nodes or libraries, meaning, you know, can the artist use things that are in development or in labs, alpha, beta, etc., or only stable.
Thanks, Jason. And if anyone wants to find out more about Griptape and the Enterprise tier, then you can head over to the Foundry website to learn more.